This little shovel that you're looking at here is called an entrenching tool, or an E-tool for short, and they're very handy little tools that you can use to dig very well, actually. This is the YouTube channel DIY Homestead Projects, and you can see it was manufactured right in the good old United States of America, and it was actually made right here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, my hometown, and I'm going to show you video of a big fire that occurred here in October of 2017 at the Ames shovel plant. Now, this shovel plant didn't pay people a lot of money, but it was a good source of employment here in the city of Parkersburg back in the day until the fire happened in October of 2017. And here is footage from Aaron Wagner on his YouTube channel. You can look it up and find the raw video there. And I encourage you guys to subscribe to his channel. But you can see this made international news back then, and it was a huge deal, and it was very reminiscent of just more pollutants in this area in Chemical Valley. This building was actually owned by DuPont for storage, and there's narration by Xander Stevens off of the workers.org website, and I'm going to read that to you here. It was around 12:20 a.m. I had just gotten off a 10-hour shift and was heading back to my apartment when I happened to notice what looked like a gas flame at a plant off in the distance. My ride and I decided to investigate, so we got off 7th Street and began heading to the interstate. Once there, we saw the biggest fire I had ever seen, with a thick black column of smoke rising and shooting out from it as sirens whirred in the background. I assumed it was some freak accident, that it would be put out, and that I'd hear about it in our local news. I headed home, ate my meal, and went to sleep. What I then woke up to and lived through over the next week was far different than anything I could imagine. What had taken place was that a plastics warehouse, owned by Intercontinental Export-Import Incorporated, had caught on fire. The city of Parkersburg was thoroughly unprepared, despite hosting 30 or more chemical plants in and around the city, including 4 or 5 IEI warehouses. More than 100 first responder firefighters from 40 different fire stations, including from neighboring Ohio as well as an environmental emergency company, came to put out what many began to call ChemBlaze 2017. Despite sporadic rainfall and the relentless day and night efforts of the first responders, the blaze continued for nearly a week. The thick black column traveled from ground zero to neighboring working-class communities, as well as communities across the river on the north side of Parkersburg. Residents of towns 30 miles away have reported the smell of burnt chemicals in the air. A thick, inescapable chemical odor was constantly present throughout the week, forcing city and state officials to declare a state of emergency. Schools were closed, residents were warned to stay indoors, and gas masks were distributed in Parkersburg and its sister city of Vienna. Myself and many of my neighbors, even while staying indoors, experienced symptoms including nausea, burning eyes, headaches, and increased respiratory problems even during day 6 of the disaster, with the fire largely put out and no visible smoke hovering over the communities. From initial reports, roughly 50 to 60 patients have been treated in relation to the fire, many with hallmark symptoms of chemical pneumonitis. This figure is likely to increase as it is only reflective of patients going to the emergency room. Eyewitnesses have reported that several of the first responders were visibly ill in the street and had to be taken to the hospital. 2 days after the fire began, amidst the usual song and dance of "everything is fine, it's all safe," the city urged residents to boil their water to neutralize possible contaminants related to the fire. A local news website, newscenter.tv, gave an incomplete list of chemicals contained in the IEI warehouse. It included polyvinyl chloride, nylon, formaldehyde, carbon black, titanium dioxide, anhydride TLV 0.1 parts per million, polytetrafluoroethylene, which is Teflon, styrene acrylonitrile, polybutylene, terephthalate, and acrylic sheets. 3 days into the disaster, a Wood County Commission meeting was held where IEI Representative Sunny Naik stated, "A disaster of this nature is something we have never encountered before. The fire departments have the most technical knowledge on a disaster of this sort. We provided the MSDS of the things in the building. We will take all responsibility for their insurance companies, as the number one priority will be cleaning up the site." And that was according to newsandsentinel.com on October 24th. Sounds reasonable enough, except within these statements is a glaringly bold-faced corporate lie. State officials have said that IEI has filed absolutely no MSDS inventories. The state and federal chemical right-to-know law requires disclosures for certain chemicals if stored in certain amounts. State environmental inspectors visited the IEI warehouse earlier this year. In 2017, West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection records released on October 25th reveal numerous violations, indicating continuing problems at a facility that 2 local volunteer firefighters had warned could be at risk of a major fire nearly 10 years earlier. Lawrence Messina, Director of Communications for the West Virginia Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, said that no emergency and hazardous chemical inventory forms for the IEI facility were supplied to emergency response entities. In 2015, the WVDEP issued a consent order regarding IEI's failure to file water runoff discharge monitoring reports. IEI was slapped with an $80,000 penalty and was forced to make an initial payment of $20,000. The DEP Chief Communications Officer, Jake Glantz, stated that the rest of it was contingent on them filing their DMRs with us, and they never did. That was according to newsandsentinel.com on October 24th of 2017. The DEP's Division of Water and Waste Management investigated the conditions in the warehouse in February. Inspectors said that waste and pellets were still scattered around the site, a diesel spill had not been fully cleaned, and storage drums left outside were deteriorating. Additionally, the company had continued water pollution violations and had not submitted required monthly progress reports to the DEP. And that was according to WVGazetteMail.com on October 25th. An electrical fire broke out at the same IEI plant in 2012, but was quickly put out by local fire departments. Former City Fire Inspector Tim Flynn recalls that the sprinkler system did not work then, according to the newscenter.tv on October 25th of 2017. The plastics warehouse, formerly an Ames True Temper tool plant, had a contract with DuPont to store its chemicals. DuPont officials have now attempted to distance themselves and obfuscate their relationship to the plant. While no official answer has been given as to the exact cause of the most recent fire, it's a safe bet to assume that investigators will come back with a report of corporate negligence as the root cause, something all too familiar to the citizens of Parkersburg and to West Virginians in general. And that report was written by Xander Stevens in 2017. So you're looking at the ground, or you have been looking at the ground as I have been reading that report, and you see what it looks like today right now. And I have been told that there is a secret tunnel somewhere out here, that it is so small that you would have to crawl in on your stomach. I was not able to find that secret tunnel location yet. I assume it goes down to where the basement would have been at this facility, but you can see the vast expanse of what is now a grassy field over parched pavement, burned pavement all over, and you can see that there is rising elevation in the distance. Now, that building that's in the background, That is currently utilized by Yellow Taxi Cab Company. And they've got a lot of stuff stored in there. But even the side of that building had been scorched and burned and melted. So you can just get a sense for how large this fire was back in October of 2017. And like I said, you saw the smoke at the beginning of the video. That made international news headlines. I mean, it was a huge deal. I myself was not living here at the time in Parkersburg. I had moved back to Indiana in August of the previous year. And then I moved back here in October of 2022 after I got out of the Army. But you can just see how large this area was, the devastation that was done. And again, as I read in the report by Xander Stevens, they had not fully gotten it cleaned up according to investigators' standards. And that was February, and they had not been submitting monthly progress reports. No MSDS sheets were ever supplied, so Sunny Naik, who was the spokesman for IEI's warehouse, lied about it. He straight up, it was a bold-faced corporate lie. They were never submitted. They said they would take full responsibility, but the problem was they had a contract with DuPont to store all those chemicals that I read off all in that report, and there were, I'd say, about 12 different chemicals I read off in that report, one of them being Teflon. And for you locals who know, Teflon is a major cancer causer in the river. And it's not just cancer, it has actually given people, 99.9% of all people in the world have this substance in their blood, and they'll never be able to get rid of it, and that's actually caused by Teflon poisoning. And I think it's just some small island in the world they have no access to humanity outside of where they live. I think those are the only people who have not been poisoned by that carcinogenic substance created by Teflon. But you guys remember the book or the documentary Dark Waters by Aaron Brockovich about DuPont's chemical Teflon spill in the Ohio River. It didn't just kill fish, it killed a lot of people in the Parkersburg and Vienna area. And I've personally worked with some who have suffered the consequences, and they have had to have part of their intestines removed from the cancer that they have developed. Many corporate lawsuits ensued against the DuPont Corporation, and a lot of people thought it was over, but this fire in 2017 told a different story. And when DuPont was storing their chemicals here, they probably just saw, well, this is a large facility. The Ames True Temper tool plant is not here anymore, so we've got an area to store all our chemicals. And they were largely forgotten about. So the idea was, or what people were wondering was this fire intentional? Did somebody from DuPont come down and set this fire to get rid of all these chemicals maybe? We don't know. But that's what people were wondering at the time. It seemed like there was corporate espionage of a sort going on here. But you can see there's still all kinds of debris out here. And I'm not sure where the secret tunnel entrance is, but I was also told by a local friend whom I trust, and I know that she's not lying about it, the guy who owns this property now, I do not recall his name, he's actually living somewhere in Ohio now. When he lived down here, he would do like inspections at night and stuff when the plant was still there before it had burned down. And one night he said that he experienced a paranormal entity here, something called a glowworm. Now, I don't know if that happened after the fire, because it sounds like something that would happen from like nuclear fallout or something. You know what I mean? Like the fire burned chemicals and maybe something lingered. I don't know, but that's what he said, and she fully believes the story. He reported it during night when he was going down into the basement here, that there was like this glowworm. It was like a giant worm that moved weird, and it glowed. It had like this phosphorescent light to it or something, and it freaked him out. So he had to leave. He didn't want to stick around for it, but Who knows? Maybe one night something like that might show up again. I have no idea what it could be. I can only fathom. Maybe it was something demonic. I have no idea. Maybe it was something left from the chemical residue. I just can't say for sure. I would have to touch base and get in touch with this guy, and maybe he could explain that story better. But it would be interesting to know, because Parkersburg has a lot of hidden secrets, and they have a lot of secret tunnels hidden around, and one of them just happens to be right at this plant. So it just adds more fuel to the fire, so to speak, about the hidden secrets of this location. What really is here? Well, you're seeing a bunch of nothing, but that's not necessarily the case. You can see there are abandoned semi-trailers loaded with materials stored in the back of them. You can see all this junk and all this debris out here. It makes you wonder, will this land ever be reclaimed? Will it ever be used again? Will it ever be safe to be used again? I can't ever see any corporation ever buying this area and investing the money to repurpose it. It's hard to say, but there's still a lot of cleanup that would need to happen here. You can see this old foundation now, and it's just sitting here right off the Little Kanawha River. And if you were to continue walking down Broadway Avenue down to the Little Kanawha River, you would see more fascinating sights. And I think I have a video for you. I can post separately here. I went down to see what was down in the bottom of this. Just looks like water. But you could see large sternwheelers and boats and ferries kind of resting on the ground right outside the Little Kanawha River. It's actually quite fascinating, the stuff that you find down there, and all the secrets that have been hidden here over time. Here you see more junk on the ground, some gravel. There are a couple trucks parked out there. I'm not sure who's using these. And in the distance, you can see that trailer. This looks like, it says Seal Master. I'm not sure if this is what's used to, it was used to put tar on the roads, I'm assuming. Some kind of a chemical there. And maybe it is still used with those trucks. It could very well be. Here you can see it looks like another chemical vat with a chemical fluid still in it. You can kind of see the liquid just sitting there in it, halfway up the container, it looks like. I'm not sure what's in that. It could be dry, I don't know. Here's another parched out foundation slab in the very back part of this area, just off Broadway Avenue and Old Camden Avenue. Here you can see rusted out pipes just stacked up here. I'm not sure what that all is. It's just junk just sitting around, and I thought, well, maybe homeless people have come out here and used this little fire pit maybe to have a fire and keep warm. Kind of hard to tell what's in there. But it's on crates, on pallets. That used to probably be a light pole right there. Yeah, you can, it's broken off now. I think those probably got burnt in the Great Fire of 2017, but to me, it looks like those used to be light poles. And you can still see where the ground is sitting here on this foundation where the chemicals used to be. Just imagine all that stuff getting burned up. And I can only imagine those chemicals are probably scorched into the ground out here. This is Chemical Valley here in the Mid-Ohio Valley in Parkersburg. And this was kind of a little bit of an interesting area. It looks like it's the back part of this whole plant, what used to be the Ames True Temper tool plant, but was turned into the IEI warehouse to store all these chemicals for DuPont. And it just keeps going on and on. You see the elevation changes in the background of the hills. Right here appears to have been a loading dock, maybe where semis came around the back and would unload back in here. This was probably receiving of the Ames True Temper tool plant, I'm assuming. You can see like a ramp where you would walk up. I'm not sure what that net thing is. But it was interesting to come back here, and it was a little bit spooky back in this area because I thought there would be homeless people camped out in the semi-trailers. And I think I heard a noise, so there may have been, but I didn't see anything right out here. But you can just see the expansive area and how much ground this covered. I mean, it just blows your mind. This was a series of steps going down, and it's just still scorched. I mean, that fire just encompassed all this area. As you can see, I took care in going down the steps because I thought maybe it was going to give out on me. Not sure what that was there. Plastic tube. I think what's interesting, here you can kind of see like a runoff or a drainage pipe leading out to the weeds. I think it would be interesting to head back out in this area here where the wood starts out a little bit and just see what's farther out there. You're going to see here in a little bit there's like a factory that's still running to the left of this. There's a little gravel lane there. I mean, it's just fascinating to see how that fire raged and covered all this ground. There's a metal fence detached right there. More chemical scorching. And then I'm getting closer to the abandoned semi-trailers, which makes you wonder, why are they still out there? Who owns this stuff? Here's that gravel lane. You can kind of see it a little bit leading into the trees. And then there are lights out there of the adjacent factory that you're seeing out in here. Yeah, right in this area, I kind of wish I would have explored that a little better. Not sure what this plastic block thing is here. There's a fence right there, kind of separating the property lines of who owns the ground. And then there's this clearing. And the very back part of it, and there are the lights from that next factory. Don't see too much other than debris out there of people who just walked back there and dropped trash, which is common in the woods around here. And then I came around and I wanted to check out this trailer. Here you get a better look at that tall factory back there. I'm not sure what that is in this cleared out area. And I'm making my way toward this trailer, and I wanted to show you guys what was inside of it. This is where I was hearing some noises, so I thought maybe somebody was camping out in there. And it got a little nerve-wracking as I made my way to the front of it. You always hate to come around it, and what if there's somebody like right here? So it's got the 4 numbers, 4526, that you see in semi-trailers a lot. I was a little bit hesitant to look and see, but it looks like there are pallets with a lot of plastic on it. I would say that somebody has probably lived in there. I didn't want to go up in there and check everything out. But here's a better look at it. I just don't understand why it's still there and why there's stuff still in it. And then I just made my way out. This is going out toward Old Camden Road. It's a little bit off. Where you see the lights, that's where the road sits. So you can kind of see these cones are staged out here, and I'm not sure why. This looks like it would have been an old driveway, and you see more cones. I mean, for this ground that's not used for literally anything, those cones have probably sat there since right after the fire, I'm assuming, so at least 7 years.